Hello and welcome to Cryptid by Region, Sweden. Today we are venturing to a country that was recently requested in the comment section. Although I did originally plan on making a video about this area, but then I ultimately decided on looking at France. As a heads up, when it comes to the cryptids found in Sweden, you will see a lot of crossover with other Scandinavian areas, as well as Germany. When compiling my list, I did my best to only include specific creatures tied to today's topic. But even as such, you will be hearing about beings that can also be found in the surrounding countries as well. Also, I really must love torturing myself, since Sweden has a very unique dialect. You all know that I try to do my best with accurate pronunciations, so as a fair warning, please forgive me for any mistakes. So join me once again as we travel from our previous location from a few weeks ago, which was France, and head northeast to our new destination of Sweden. Sweden has had humans living on the land since 12,000 BC, and there are a lot of cave paintings or petroglyphs found all over. Following this, the people who would be known as Vikings established settlements in the area. It was during this time that Sweden was split up into 3 different areas under the name of Svealand, Jodeland, and Norrland. In the year 1000, Olaf Poetkonen became the first king to rule over Svealand. This was then followed by a clan known as the House of Erik under King Erik IX. Power would change hands multiple times through the following years, then in 1523, Gustav Vasa, or simply Gustav I, succeeded in making Sweden independent and at the same time establishing the groundwork for what the area was to become today. Interestingly, during the 17th century, under Charles X. Gustav, with a population considerably smaller than the surrounding countries, they managed to be successful at winning many wars and even becoming what many considered a superpower. Wars would continue with varied success until around 1718, when Russia and Great Britain joined forces and put an end to the Swedish superpower. During the years of Enlightenment, King Gustav III took the throne in 1771 and quickly repaired Sweden's faltering economy and defensive power. In 1808, Sweden went to war with Russia and lost the battle, which resulted in Finland being ceded to Russian rule. In 1813, Sweden, under the control of King Charles III John, a former general of Napoleon, went to war with Denmark, which in turn was a battle against Napoleon himself. By its end, Norway was given over to Sweden, but the people rebelled and not long after became independent. This would mark the last battle that Sweden fought in until more recent times. The flag of Sweden has a bit of a debated history, and even the date it was first utilized is unknown. The gold and blue colors were utilized in the Swedish coat of arms of Magnus III in 1275. Although prior to 1420, any flag used was said to have a white cross rather than a standard gold one. The first known mention of the flag we see today was first noted in a royal warrant on April 19, 1562. Even as such, the flag was not officially utilized until June 22, 1906. Regardless, it depicts a gold Nordic cross on a background of blue. While a lot of symbols aren't included on this flag, the colors are said to hold special meanings. The blue stands for vigilance, perseverance, loyalty, truth, and justice. The gold, or yellow, is meant to indicate the generosity of the country's people. The only symbol shown is the cross, which typically represented Christianity. Okay, let's see what cryptids there are. There are many cryptids found in this country, and they cover most all genres, and we have a few that we've never talked about before. However, we'll start with a few water-based ones. Probably the most well-known cryptid for the area is the creature known as Stulahuajuret, which is found in Lake Stulhuen. Descriptions vary, but it is said to have a massive serpent-like body and the head of a dog, but others say it can be more cat-like. The body is 10 to 45 feet in length, has fins down its back, is a greenish color, and is covered in white spots. For most tales, the beast is actually friendly and doesn't intend on harming humans. So far, there have been over 500 sightings of it, but actual documentation is hard to come by. The earliest writings come by way of a vicar named Morgans Penderson from 1635. The story has every characteristic of a folktale, but it did describe the same beast making its home in the lake. It was again referenced in 1685, but this is also in a folk tale style. In 1839, a man named Aaron Anderson and others claimed to see a reddish-gray serpentine animal with a white mane and a horse head swimming away from the shore. On October 13, 1893, two women near Sorbonne watched as the creature's head rose from the water. A year later, after a few more sightings, King Oscar II funded a venture to try to capture the creature. Following this, it was seen at least 7 more times through the years, including in August of 2008, when a film crew for a documentary claimed to have actually caught a thermal image of it in the water. As a heads up, I couldn't find a pronunciation for the lake or the creature, so bear with me. In Grit Yen Lake, there are reports that another serpent-like creature known as Gritty has made its home there for years. Descriptions are scant, but it is said to be fairly long, have a rounded head, and it has a single horn. Stories about this being have been written about since the 1800s, and others have been sparsely reported up until the 1980s. Around 1985, the Gritty Group was formed, with their main goal being to find evidence of this creature. There have been many investigations from that point until 1995, but all of them have returned with nothing to show. Although in 1988, the group did find a strange horn under the water, but it wasn't able to be recovered. Some believe that what has been seen is possibly a sea cow or manatee, but even with all the investigations, proof of that doesn't exist either. Okay, so let's leave the water for something more terrestrial. I think our next being should be the scoopsua. Now, this is a being that is thought to be only found in lore, but I found an encounter that may indicate that this isn't the case. This is a being that typically is seen as a very attractive woman who attempts to entice men into following them into the woods. In many cases, if a person does follow them, they're never seen again. However, there are stories about them actually marrying a human and living happily together unless their betrothed becomes unfaithful. In this case, the creature will cause many accidents to occur, and in some instances, even death. What this being actually is unclear, but from the front it looks human, but from the behind it has a dark hollow opening in its back, and it possesses a long tail. Normally the tail remains hidden while clothed, but it tends not to wear garments too frequently. There are claims that the only way to kill it is to utilize silver bullets. Now, an encounter was reported from Stockholm that seems to describe this very being. A woman we will call Rachel was taking a walk out in the forest near her house, which she had done many times before. But this time, she kept getting an uneasy feeling. The feeling kept getting stronger and stronger as she walked, and soon she came to a lake. To her shock, she saw a naked female standing on a rock on the other side of the shore. It was obvious that this person had been in the water, even though the temperature was much too cold for a swim. This person caught a sight of Rachel and started to walk in a weird pacing motion, as if it wanted to cross the water, but couldn't. Not wanting to stick around, the woman left the lake and headed back to her home quickly. That night, while eating supper with her boyfriend, they suddenly heard a loud sound outside, followed by even louder stomping. Suddenly, the front door flew open, but after investigating, no one was outside. The boyfriend assured her that it was simply a strong wind, and the two eventually went to bed. While they were there, they heard a skittering and scratching noise coming from under the floorboards. Again, Rachel's boyfriend assured her that it must be a fox or weasel, and not to worry about it. At 3 a.m., she got up to go to the bathroom, and again was filled with the same uneasiness that she had prior in the forest. As she looked out the window, she saw something walking up the hill in the darkness. The only light available outside was some solar pathway markers. Rachel thought it must be an animal, but it was walking upright, and if it was a person per se, then it didn't have any clothes on. In fact, from behind it was extremely dark, like a shadow. To her horror, she saw the eyes of the creature, and they were staring at her. They were illuminated from the solar lights, and they changed from a blue color to yellow. The creature started to walk incredibly slowly, and even appeared to float for a period of time. Eventually, the being moved out of sight, and Rachel quickly headed back to the bedroom. She said that nothing else happened, but her boyfriend did have a terrible nightmare that night. I feel this could have been a scoopsua, since it appeared as a female near water in the woods, its eye coloring, and the fact that its back was darker than everything else. As stated, this being is known to have a dark gaping hole in its back. Finally, we have the topic that seems to be most prominent in this country, and that would be trolls. Typically, when we hear that word, we immediately think of something that is tall, hideous looking, and akin to an ogre. Although in Sweden, they are frequently viewed as looking similar to humans. They are very much bigger than us, prefer to live in the forests, and can dress very nicely. In most encounters, the only way to tell that they aren't human outside of their size is that they have a tail. In the lore, it is said that if you see a cow wandering around the forest alone, that means a troll is nearby, and it is their animal. Another point of the tale is that the creatures will only allow themselves to be seen if they are comfortable with that person. There are multiple sightings over Sweden of people describing the same creature. They range in size from 4 feet to 7 feet tall, can be black, brown, or green in color, have shorter legs, and the body is lumpy or knobby, and is often said to appear like a giant ball on 2 legs. Apparently, these creatures are known to move incredibly fast for their stature, and in many cases don't produce much sound as they move. According to most sightings, they seem to stay in the shadows, or are seen at night, since no description of their face is ever found. Although one person said that they saw it sneaking around their barn and peering into the bedroom windows. Quite a few people state that they have seen them alongside the road, and oddly enough, they appear oblivious to traffic, for the most part. One person says that a troll was spotted in the hills of Hälsingland, and when the encounter was mentioned to their grandmother, she was well aware of the being. In fact, she even stated that when she was a small child, a similar creature had terrorized their property, and eventually they abandoned their home because of it. There is a photo of what is claimed to be that of a troll floating around since November of 2011. Claimed to be shot near Catalina home, it does show something, but it looks more Sasquatch-like. Or should I say more gorilla suit-like. After reading over a lot of the encounters, it certainly feels like this could be a form of a Sasquatch, but I'm not sure. All I do know is that there are a lot of sightings and they all describe the same being. Is it a troll or Bigfoot? Who knows? But something certainly seems to be out there. As usual, I couldn't go over every creature that is said to roam about this country, so here are our honorable mentions. There have been a few Bigfoot sightings through the years, with one being known as the Hälsingland Snowmannen, but descriptions indicate it was a Sasquatch. There are a few Dogman sightings, with one being as recent as February of last year. A woman from Hillerud claimed to have been attacked by one, and it even left behind 20 deep bite marks. While not technically a cryptid, the zombie lore of Draugr are found here. There are weird tales of a being known as a Vitula, which is a creature that tends to remain invisible, but is very akin to Scottish weefolk. They live underground, have families, and even invisible cows, but when disrespected by humans, they can cause accidents and even death. Another creature would be a Mia-ling, which is said to be the reanimation of a child that had died by insidious means. They will attack people and in many cases will even kill. This would fit in with our Witcher videos, since there is a very similar creature in it known as a botchling, but that is only found in the games and not the TV show. In Lake Holland, near Ulufslum, there is a weird creature known as the Holland Gamen, and it is described as a living pterosaur. What is weird is that while it does fly around, it is also known to dive into the lakes for fish, and will stare into the water for prolonged periods of time. Apparently, it will also attack boats, but it was last seen in the 1970s. This has led many to believe that it actually is no longer living. For posterity, I will include a few spirit-based entities. The Mara is said to be a being that will climb onto a person's chest while they sleep and give them bad dreams. As you may assume, their name is a root word for nightmares. The troll cat is said to be the familiar of a witch that will steal the milk from cows in people's homes. They were more animated puppets than living beings, since they were created from human hair, wood shavings, nails, and other such items. Then we have a creature known as the Glosson, which is a large white-colored ghost pig that has glowing red eyes. According to lore, it has sharp spikes running down its back, and it will charge at a person. In this, it will try to go between a person's legs, which it then purposefully uses its sharp spikes to cleave its victim in half. I saw a report about a creature that was said to be human-shaped, but it was floating and had a box-like head. This story feels more alien to me, so I may include it, if I remember, in a Strange Aliens video. Sweden also has a horse similar to many other stories that we have heard about in the past, and it is called the Bäckarhästen. It can change its shape, but typically is seen as a horse, and if a person tries to hitch a ride, then it will dive into a lake and eat them. Again, the story is pretty much word for word with the Kelpie or Yaushka. What is different is that it is often linked with a being known as a Knack or Noken or Nixie. Typically, this is seen as a man who plays a violin near the water and lures people in with the music. It is said that this creature can also take the form of a horse, which make many tie the two beings together. Something similar to this is the Stölemkollen, and it also appears as a man playing music near the water. Although this being doesn't seem dangerous and will teach people how to play an instrument if given food on a Thursday. If happy with the offering, they will take the person's hand and run them over the fingers of the strings until they bleed. After this, the person will be able to play any instrument proficiently. I do have to note that being there isn't a distinct difference in appearance between the helpful Stölemkollen and the deadly Knack, I have to wonder, who would take the risk of approaching such a being since you wouldn't know which one it was? Finally, our last cryptid is about reports of people seeing the recently discussed invisible Glimmerman near the Gubangan area. It was seen in its typical cloaked form and had glowing yellow eyes. As I end this, I hope you enjoyed the video and that I made Sweden proud. I never thought I would, but should have always considered the fact that one day I would be talking about trolls. So, due to this, I am happy that Sweden had so many reports to back it up. As always, remember to keep voting for which state you would like to see next in our Cryptid by State series. As it stands, we have a three-way tie for first between Montana, Kansas, and Minnesota. I'm excited to see which one ultimately prevails. If you haven't yet done so, do please consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Also, it would be greatly appreciated if you share my videos with someone you know who may enjoy this type of genre. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later!